I don't talk about my business a lot because I don't want things to be about me, but I am self-employed and I have employees, and there are certain things in my business that only I can do. So I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not that weed eating is beneath me, and it's not that mowing the grass is beneath me and sweeping the floors beneath me. But if I do those things, if I spend all my time doing those type of things, then there are things that only I can do that will never get done. And there are certain things if I don't do, nobody has a job. Talking about tier 1 things that have to be done. And that I'm the only one, and that you are the only one. By the way, listen to me right now. Some of you take this outside, because I want to help you in life. I don't just want to help you in this church. I want to help you in life. This is true in your jobs. This is true in your homes. This is true in school. This is true in relationships, in businesses. Whatever it is, this will apply. It's like love and respect. It's much bigger than just our marriages. It deals with the relationships that you have on any level with men and with women, with males and females in general. Okay? That's tier 1. That's tier 1. Tier 2. Tier 2. Very important and strategic. Very important and strategic. It matters a lot, but it's not mission critical. It's not mission critical. It is very important and it has an impact and it is good, but it is not mission critical. If it doesn't get done, the plane won't crash. The boat won't sink. Tier 2. Let me just go ahead and help you understand something. A lot of us think we have nothing but tier 1 stuff. I'm telling you right now. And the reason that is for a lot of us that whatever screams the loudest is what we focus on, and don't think that happens to be tier 1. We're getting ready to get really, 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 really deep and really, really practical here. Like I said, I'm just kind of testing the waters. I pray this is not over your heads. I know for a lot of you, I know for a lot of our leaders, this is vital right now because you've talked to me and you're overwhelmed, and stuff has become much, much bigger with much less help, and it's very hard and it's very difficult. So we get to that point where we get there. This 40 days is going to change that. Amen. Tier 2, very important and strategic. It has an impact. It's good. But if it doesn't get done, the plane won't go down. Tier 3. Meaningful, but not vital. Meaningful, but not vital. These are activities that we enjoy. These are activities that we value, but they're not necessarily essential. Nothing significant is going to be lost if we don't do it, and if it does not get accomplished. Activities we enjoy and value, not necessarily essential. Again, not bad by any stretch, but nothing significant is lost if we don't do it, and if it does not get accomplished. Tier number 4. Externally initiated and lower priorities. Externally initiated and lower priorities. This is an activity, this is a request, this is a task that starts from the outside of the organization. So important that you get this. Outside of the organization, outside of the team, perhaps for you guys as ways that are going to help you, outside of the home, outside of the job. Again, the application here is widespreading, not just church related. Activities, requests, or tasks that start from the outside. They're not your idea. They may be meaningful, but maybe not. Craig Rochelle, I hope you guys go and listen to his podcast. He shares a story about right here that I can't even say this without laughing and giggling. Somebody asked him, he is over like 100 churches, and he is the lead pastor over 100 churches, and really one of the best followed leadership podcasts, honestly, in the country. And they're over the YouVersion Bible app. And somebody called him to ask him if he would come and do a dedication for their puppies. And he said, this was this was externally initiated. It didn't come from within our team. And I just had to respectfully decline. It's not that he's not a dog guy, I don't know, but this would be a lower priority. It's not that it's not important. It's very important to them. You know what I mean? And they put value in their pastor. And so, I'm not ripping that person. But do you understand that as a leader, we cannot do all of those things. All right? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take just a couple of minutes and start over beside this slide right here. I just want you to list how you spend time in a typical week. Okay? Huh?
I don't have enough lines.
You definitely don't have enough lines. That's why I said to start. Yours is going to come in when we do homework on the last slide. Just start writing down some of the things that you, okay?
Just things we do or how much time we spend on each thing.
No, for right now, just things that you do, not just the amount of time that you allocate. Good question. Just stuff you do. Well, I guess if you dedicate a lot of time to it, you could. Your focus need focus. It's true. This is true. But I admit it. Hey, spend time in a typical week. I realize certain weeks are different, but in a typical week, I work this amount of time. I go to church on this day. I work at this chore at the house. I have this activity outside of, on this night I do this. Typically in the mornings I this. So because I'm going to have you go much, much deeper into this later as your homework, you can go ahead and stop for just a second. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at the list, and it's short for what you do in a typical week, even if it seems long to you right now. It's going to be much longer when you really itemize your time later as your homework. And I want you to put check marks beside the things that you think are tier 1. Look at your list and put check marks beside the things that you think are tier 1. Now, I want to give you a quote. In a nutshell, let me tell you this. A lot of things that you think are tier 1 are not tier 1 things. I could give you a list of just the things of my responsibilities here at the church. I could give you a big long list. And many days, many days, it feels like some of those things are screaming at me louder than other things. And you know what? The truth is, honestly, I have very few tier 1 things. Very few. I would say I have a lot of tier 2 things. I would say for me, I do have a lot of tier 2 things. Let me just give you an example, okay, right now. One of the things that I feel like is important for us is for you guys to have notes. So when I preach, I want you to have notes just so you have a takeaway. Because I've been that person that went to a sermon and we left and we're like, oh, that was good. What was that? And then we don't remember. Because people at best remember 50% of what they hear. 50% at best, what they hear. That jumps up to 70% if you hear it and you write it down. That's why I give you notes. But do you know what? For me, although that's very important, and it's important and it points toward the missional, purpose of what we're doing, it's not tier 1. Would our church go on if we came in and I did not have notes one Sunday? So why in the world am I sick to death and up at midnight, and then I come in wore out on Sunday, so tired I can't preach? Because I'm wore out by tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 things. We're going to have to start to figure out what some of these tiers are. I want to give you a quote. This guy is so smart. Like everything he says is quotable. This is from Craig Rochelle. Your importance is not measured by how much you do, but by how much what you do matters. Your importance is not measured by how much you do, but by how much what you do matters. I can do 600 million things. That's exaggerated. I can only do 6 million things. Jeannie can do 600 million things. I'm not that good at multitasking. But is that as important as the one or two things that are missionally critical? I mean, yeah, I could come in here, and here's the way it works. Let me just tell you this, as a leader, especially as a top leader, it ultimately falls on you. Okay? If that trash is not taken out, guess who it's going to fall on? If the door's not unlocked, guess who it's going to fall on? If there's not toilet paper, guess who it's going to fall on? If the rent isn't paid, guess who it's going to fall on? If the music isn't working, guess who it's going to fall on? All that ultimately falls on me as the pastor. Praise God, he's got an unbelievable team here, and I don't do any of those things now. But what you have to understand is that those things fall to me, so I could run around doing all those things and get to the point that I'm so busy, I don't even preach God's word that morning because I'm changing toilet paper and putting water in the cooler. It's not about how many things you do. It's about how important the thing you do is. For a lot of us, you're going to become much more efficient. You're going to become much more effective when you cut out some tier 3, some tier 4 things, and you focus on the eternal consequences of what you do. That's a great quote. Can you understand why I like this guy? All right. If you're doing too many things, you are compromising your ability. If you are doing too many things, you can feel this on the side. Again, now I'll leave that lighter next time so you can see better. If you're doing too many things, you are compromising your ability to do the most important things well. I'll tell you again, I know that's a lot. If you're doing too many things, you are compromising your ability to do the most important things well. If I'm going to be an effective pastor, I'm going to have to spend multiple hours in study and in prayer and in seeking God's face. And if I'm not careful, I'll run around to birthday parties and baseball games and whatever. You get my point, right? Stuff. By the way, I love doing those things. I love being involved in life. We're going to get to here in just a minute. There's times you can do that. There's times that you can't. But if you're doing too many things, you're compromising your ability to do what matters or what to do the most important things well. There are so many mornings on Saturday mornings when I am home and I'm in the office early and I'm studying and I'm praying, and I spend a whole lot of Saturdays, a whole lot of Fridays in the office just studying and praying, and I think about the lunchbox, and I think about the cupboard, and I think about all the things that they're doing. And guys, I would love to be there with you. I would love to distribute, but here's the deal. Because you're doing it and you're doing it with excellence, I can get in the Word of God and I can study and I can hit my face and seek God's face, because you are distributing and you are doing your tier 1 things so that I can do my tier 1 things. That's why legacy is effective. It's not because I'm great at outreach. It's because you have said yes to God's vision for your life that fits within the vision of legacy, and God's doing some awesome stuff. Does that make sense? If you do your tier 1, your tier 1 may be my tier 3. Your tier 1 may be my tier 2. Very important. But dude, if I can you imagine? If our leaders can focus on their tier ones, because other people who are not actively engaged right now in ministry step up in this 40 days, and their tier one things becomes your tier two, and your tier three, and your tier four things, and you can really focus in on your tier one, Lord have mercy on this place. Because He's going to do some stuff when we all focus on our tier one. It lightens other people's tier twos and tier threes. Do you realize that Jeff and Lucas get here about 6:30 in the morning on Sundays? Do you realize that? I used to have to be the first one here. I used to have to be the very first one here so I could unlock the doors. So and truthfully, Jeannie would do a lot of it, and I do a lot of it. And so now, I mean, I show up. I get up and really I'm praying more over my notes on Sunday mornings than I am studying. And I just get up early and I pray over them, and then I get ready. And Jeannie and I will typically get here by 8 o'clock or a little after 8. And normally by then the church is unlocked, the signs are out, the music's going, the worship team's up here. And do you realize how much more effective I can be at my tier one because you guys are doing what your tier one is? It's powerful. It's powerful stuff. Okay? As a leader, second part on that top slide there. As a leader, you will never maximize your effectiveness by responding to other people's priorities. As a leader, I told y'all, we're going deep, man. Craig Groeschel is smart. I wish I was smart enough or dumb enough to claim this as my own. As a leader, you will never maximize your effectiveness by responding to other people's priorities. And it's not that we don't care, and it's not that it's not important, and it's not that it's not kingdom-minded. But how can I live up to my tier one priorities if I'm so busy answering your tier two priorities? We're going to talk about it in a minute. There's times I can do that, do it with joy and honor. You cannot let, next slide, you cannot let lower tier activities rob you from higher tier effectiveness. The busier you are, the more God's helping you right now. Some of you are like, whew, and others are like, eh. Some of you are like, I want to scream amen, but I can't because they're going to know I'm too busy focusing on tier 4 stuff. You cannot let lower tier activities rob you from higher tier effectiveness. Most every leader does this. And do you know the reason that most every leader does this? Because we've never clarified our top priorities. If I'm not careful, I love this. Craig Groeschel took his leadership team, and some of his direct leaders that are on his personal staff, these are women that used to lead companies. I'm talking like companies. And so they sat down and they were overwhelmed, and they got to the point where they had to cut out all tier 4 activities for that time. They were just too busy at that time, and they had to cut out every tier 4 activity. But here's the problem, that most leaders are overwhelmed because we have never sat down and tiered our priorities. Therefore, we don't know whether we are efficient or not. Because we focus on what screams the loudest. And what typically screams the loudest? Tier 4 stuff, tier 3 stuff. And it screams the loudest. So we have to be very, very careful that we determine, that we clarify our top priorities. If you don't decide what is most important, other people will decide for you. If you don't decide what's most important, other people will decide for you. Why? Because what screams the loudest is what gets valued most. Tier 1 is always a yes. I'm on the next slide. Sorry, I see a lot of you guys writing. Tier 1 is always a yes. Tier 2 is most always a yes. It is going to be the unbelievably rare occasion that I do not print notes for you and that I do not come up with the PowerPoint. It is going to be a very, very rare occasion, because for me, I feel like it makes the message more efficient and more acceptable and better received, because I know and I've studied that if you just hear, that you only know 50%, that if you hear and write, you remember 70%, and if you see and hear and write, you're up to about 80 to 85%. That's why I do the things that I do. I do those on purpose. Do you know how many PowerPoints I had done before Legacy? What I do on purpose. You guys may not agree with everything I do, but I'm telling you, what I do on purpose. I prayed for days and days and days whether I was going to wear jeans or slacks. I prayed for days. I prayed for a month on what version of the Bible I was going to read. Month, at least a month. And I don't know the amount of time that I dedicated to that. Why? Because what I do, I want to do on purpose. With that being said, if you and I can determine what's tier 1, what's tier 2, what's tier 3, what's tier 4, can you imagine how much more efficient you're going to become in your life and in your ministries? There may be times that all tier 4s are a no. I'll tell you this, right now for me, right now, because of the amount of nights that we're counseling, because of the amount of nights that I'm doing certain things right now, for me right now, and this has never happened other than the last couple of months, for me right now, every tier 4 is going to be a no. Every tier 4. From now on, it's going to have to be a no. For right now. I love to go and pray at ball games. I love that. When the minors have ball games, I love to do that. Guess what? Right now, that's a no. Because I'm finding that right now, that little bit of time that I have on a Friday, I need that just to chill out and to let my mind calm down and to seek that health mentally in my life. God's helped me to see that. Now, I don't think that's always going to be the case, and typically that's very rare for me. I am co-vocational, which means that I have a job, and then I'm also a pastor, which you guys are co-vocational too, because you have jobs or you do things outside of the church. This is not anybody's full-time job here, so that's what we mean by co-vocational. Let me give you an example. Not long after we had launched the Lunchbox, and it was really getting bigger than we had ever anticipated, and we were like wigging out a little bit, because we were bold and we were going to tithe at least a tenth, and man, this thing started growing bigger, and the only thing paying for that was the church, and the need started growing so big because God's hands are all over Miss Angela like you can't imagine. And so, just to be honest, this started freaking me out a little bit, and we were really feeling overwhelmed with the outreach that we had. And Pastor Don Kelly, who I love Don Kelly, he is an unbelievable man, a great man of God, and a good friend. Somebody that I get to have breakfast with, and we just love on each other, which is great. I mean, just to invest in each other. We can share things with each other that we can't share with other people because we're pastors. But anyway, he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I know you are really passionate about outreach, and I want to share this with you." And he had been approached about doing some things for the homeless community. And he shared this with me, and I said, "Man, Don, that sounds fantastic, but I got to be honest with you. For right now, we are just focusing on this outreach because my conviction is this. What God does, he does with excellence, or he doesn't do it. And although I love what you're doing, and although this is so awesome, and although I feel like it's something that we will probably be involved with in the future, for right now it has to be a no, because I feel like if we do it, we're going to, what I said is, I feel like if I do this, I'm going to dilute us. And I'm going to dilute our effectiveness." It's the first time that I can remember telling somebody no to something in ministry that I really liked and wanted to do. And you know what? It changed his life. It changed his ministry. Nobody ever done that. He'd never heard that before. I really didn't even know what I was saying, honestly. But it helped Pastor Don to figure out that he's going to have to say no to some stuff. You see, for me, although that was important, and it's good, and it's kingdom-minded, it was an outside ask. So therefore, that would go under what tier? 4th tier, because it was an outside initiated thing, right? So that's just an example of that. Here's one of the challenges with tier 1 and tier 2. The challenge is that tier 1 and tier 2 is longer term. It's longer term and it doesn't show results immediately. When I preach, it does not show results immediately. I don't know what God's doing in your heart. Sometimes you guys respond, but I still don't know the application of that until maybe months or years later. That's same with tier 1, that's same with tier 2. So one of the challenges is that the things are that are the most important, we don't see the benefits until down the road, but the tier 3 and the tier 4, these are short term, and that they feel more urgent because they're screaming louder. And so if I focus all my time on changing toilet paper, I can go in there, that gets done, somebody's like, whew, man, thank you, I got an issue here, I needed that. Okay? It's immediate. Those results are immediate. And that is important. Yes, that's important. I don't know why I got on toilet paper tonight, but my point is this. It's so easy for us as leaders, whether you're a leader in your home, whether you're a leader on the job, whether you're a leader in this church, what's so important for us to understand is that if we're not careful, because tier 3 and tier 4 scream so loud and they're hollering it at us the most, it's not necessarily the most important thing for us to do, even though we see the results much quicker. I may not know results of my preaching for years and years and years down the road. But preaching to me is, without a doubt, mission critical. It is my tier 1. D group can go on if I'm not there. I can reschedule counseling with somebody if I'm not there. I can even miss a leadership training. I can have somebody else do a leadership training if I am not there. But if I don't, and I'm not saying I have to be the one that preaches, but if I don't preach or have somebody else fill this pulpit, we're going to show up on a Sunday and we're going to sing songs, which is great. But if we do it outside of the Word of God, we have failed. For me, preaching is tier 1. It is mission critical. What you have to do is you have to determine what is mission critical for you. I'll give you another quote by Craig Rochelle. We don't change the world by doing tier 3 and tier 4 activities. You don't change the world by doing tier 3 and tier 4 activities. So how do we change the world if it's not tier 3 and tier 4? Anybody want to guess? Good job, Lynn. I like your objects there. She's so cute when she did that. Did you see her, Bill?
What about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples? Was not tier 1, washing the feet.
Are you saying it was not tier 1?
Jesus washed the feet of the disciples. What was his mission?
His mission was to teach them to be a servant, which was mission critical, absolutely, without a doubt.
So whatever we do when God is leading us,
Absolutely. It's tier 1, absolutely, without question.
Teaching without doing something is sometimes is empty. It cannot be just empty words. We have to put some...
Right. For me, my preaching is it's not going to happen until I've spent hours. Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in prayer and in study. That is my tier 1. Now here's what's important. Our tier 1s are different. Does that make me right and you wrong? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's what? One member of the body? Are we all one great big eyeball? We might be a toenail. Do you realize how many parts? Anyway, I'm not going. A healthy body has many parts, yes? There's many tier 1s. Guys, listen, don't try to make your tier 1 my tier 1. Don't do that. I promise you, I can't make my tier 1 your tier 1. Now, my tier 3 might be your tier 1. So if you don't do it, I'll have to do it. And then I'm going to be crappier at my tier 1. And maybe I don't do my tier 1 and then it's your tier 3. Does that make sense? That's how we effectively do this. We don't change the world by doing tier 3 and tier 4 activities. Last slide, I'll let you guys go. This is your homework, okay? This is your homework. You need to document what you do in a normal week. Jeff, this is for you. Okay?
He's going to have a whole nother
They have big, thick notebooks, Jeffrey Kincaid. But I want you to document what you do in a typical week, okay? Number 2, I want you to categorize what you do into 4 tiers. Categorize what you do into 4 tiers. This is very, very, very important. You should have 2 to 3 tier 1 things. Listen, some of you are like, you don't understand. Yeah, I do. The issue is you have tier 2 and you have tier 3 things that are screaming at you so loud you think they're tier 1, and they're not. Craig Rochelle says you should have a maximum of 5. He said, and that's a maximum. And this is a guy that has over 1,000 employees, multiple thousands of volunteers, churches in 30-some states, and he's telling me you should have no more than 2 to 3 tier 1? Maybe, just maybe, he knows what he's talking about. And I'm busier than I should be because I have not prioritized and set down what should be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 in my life. Number 3, determine what lower tier priorities are robbing you from higher tier priorities. You're not going to like this. I'm telling y'all right now, you're not going to like that. You know what I figured out long ago? I never heard this teaching before. But you know what I figured out for me? I was a youth pastor. Our youth group was growing like wildfire. It was crazy. It was as big really as a church. It was over 50 kids at one point, and Jeannie and I had no help at that point. It was just me and her. And so one of the things, and if our kids gave me a schedule of all those 50 kids, if they gave me a schedule, they had to give it to me at the beginning of their season, I guaranteed them that I would be at one game, one meet, one race, one concert, one whatever. And I never, ever, ever let one down that ever gave me a schedule. We were very, very, very busy. For me, you know what fell to tier 3? Hospital visitation. And I was in an existing church. Let me tell you what, you think you're the skunk of the earth? You make a determination that hospital visits is not something that you're prioritizing, and you just listen to the smack talk come. It's something God taught me years and years and years ago. That during that time, now if I came to see someone in the hospital, they were worried. Because, oh my gosh, you came, that must mean that you're telling me that what they're not willing to tell me. I'm not saying that's my conviction now. That was then based on what our priorities were at the time, okay? So once number 3, you determine what lower tier priorities are robbing you from higher tier priorities. Number 4, what are you going to do about it? Because if we don't change anything, guess what changes? Here's the truth. Some of you are so busy, some of you are overwhelmed, and you're spending a whole lot of time on tier 3, tier 4 things that you may have to just stop for now. It's not that it's not important. It's not that it's not good. It's not that it's not necessary in certain instances. But listen, for you right now, now for me that's very rare. Even though I am co-vocational, typically I can do those things and I enjoy doing those things. But right now I'm counseling more and I have more things scheduled through the week than I have at any time in my 20-some year ministry, ever, right now. So because of that, for right now, Jeannie was asking me about something the other day, and I said, you know what, Fridays are out totally. I don't care what it is, they're out. I have to have a Sabbath. I have to. And for me right now, Fridays are my Sabbath, which honestly I spend most of my time studying and praying. But I'm not doing outside stuff right now. I will go and golf. But for me, I have to have that time to relax in my mind. God's teaching me. But so actually, we've had to turn down some stuff for some Fridays, just because that's where I am. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I got to focus on tier 1. Because you know what? Tier 1 things are mission critical. And those things are too important. They're too important for me not to do with excellence. Here's the truth. If we're not careful, we do a lot of stuff with mediocrity, and nothing with excellence. I'd rather you do tier 1 with excellence and forget everything else. You want to change the world? You want to be vital to the kingdom? You become excellent at your tier 1 stuff. This is a lot deeper than I typically get with you guys. I'm testing the water here to kind of figure out whether I was over your head. I'll be able to kind of read that as I've actually gone through, and then as we kind of finish up. But just if you would write down, I forgot to put this in your slide. If you would, please write at the bottom of that page, July 11th. That is my birthday. July 11th. They totally missed it. And you got headphones on. You're the only one in here that would have got that. You got headphones on. You're focusing on tier 4 stuff, man. No, that's an inside ask. That's tier 3. Okay. July the 11th is our next leadership training. Okay? July the 11th is our next leadership training. We will be doing leadership trainings every other month, typically on the second Sunday. So that will be Sunday at 5:30. All right. What are you first above all else?
Minister.
You're a minister first. Before you play a note, before you teach a class, before you facilitate, before you do this, before you do that, you are a minister. You are an ambassador for Christ. I want to challenge you guys. To really, really, really know how to lead somebody to Christ. You have enough information. Again, it's not exhaustive and it's not the only way, but I guarantee you it is a way and it will work. I guarantee you. I know. So you need to spend some time. You need to learn the Romans road. You need to figure out. If you got to have a Bible to do that, you have a Bible. If you got to put a note on your phone, I can't remember where to go first. Somewhere you figure that out. I'm not techie. You do that to where you can go there and then it can lead you from one to the other. Because God's not going to send them if we're not ready to take care of them. And we're looking at a land of opportunity, at a good land. And the only way God can give us the things that He wants to give us is for you and I to be prepared to, with excellence, handle the things that He gives us. Amen. Y'all stand. We're going to be dismissed.